So I imagine your first question is, what the hell is Schlocktober? Well, Schlocktober is a special Halloween-themed sub-series. It used to be part of another show, now it's part of this one. How does it work? Well, it's like those episodes where I talk about a movie or a TV show, but since it's Halloween time, it's a whole month of me introducing you to bizarre, obscure horror and or monster movies, because I love Halloween, because I love these movies, and because I can, pretty much. So, we begin today with one of my all-time favorites, a 1970 Hammer Films classic that, in addition to being criminally underappreciated even within its own genre, is part of a wholly unique aesthetic tradition that went out of fashion on film but found new life as an inspiration for video games like Caveman Ninja, Bonk's Adventure, Prehistoric Man, and Chuck Rock, in case you were wondering what this has to do with video games. I speak, of course, of When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth. I told you this was going to be fun. Anyway, this is technically the sequel to the better-known 1 Million Years BC, though plot-wise it's more like a remake with a bigger and better mandate. Whereas 1 Million had both impressive dinosaur scenes and a fur cave girl bikini that turned then-unknown Raquel Welch into a Hollywood superstar, this one follows up with, well, more dinosaurs and way more supermodels wearing pretty much nothing. Movie magic. Oh yeah, this is one of those things where they've got cavemen and dinosaurs existing at the same time, and if that's gonna bother you, I don't know, I guess pretend it's another Earth-like planet where evolution went different. So the plot is that there's this one tribe of bad cavemen who are basically a cult enthralled to an evil high priest that demands that they sacrifice their blonde-haired women to appease the sun, which has something to do with the idea that at whatever non-existent point in Earth's history this is all supposedly taking place, there's no moon yet, so nighttime is extra special scary, and yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But the most recent offering is having none of it and escapes. This is our heroine Sana, played by 1968 Playmate of the Year Victoria Vetri, incidentally. Yeah, it's not a subtle movie. So, Sana gets rescued by fishermen from a marginally more evolved caveman tribe that lives by the beach and invites her to come chill with them because, well, one imagines that's self-explanatory. And folks, this is why these movies rocked. Because just when you're starting to think, you know, I've kinda had my fill of gorgeous women and or supercut dudes chilling on the beach in deerskin swimwear, some shit like this happens. Yeah, that's how it kind of works in this. Every time things start to get just a little bit boring, like maybe you want to change the channel and watch something else, it goes, oh my god, holy shit, dinosaur! But this is also where the quote-unquote drama comes in. See, Sana has won the affections of Tara, the most eligible bachelor of the beach tribe people, but Tara is already desired by Ayak, a woman already of his tribe who becomes murderously jealous of Sana so that this can happen. I don't know why the redhead also jumped in there. I mean, I know why, I just don't know what the reason in the plot was supposed to be. See, you kind of have to work this stuff out for yourself, because...
Wendy.
Nebo. Ayak. Akita. Tara Udala. Akita.
Yeah, there's no actual dialogue in this movie, but there's a ton of talking using an imaginary primitive caveman language created just for the film, because apparently a cast of totally modern-looking actors sharing the screen with animals that human beings never interacted with in reality is fine, but if anyone speaks English, that's gonna break our suspension of disbelief. In any case, the evil tribe shows up looking for Sana, so she takes off and almost gets eaten by a giant plant. Just go with it. But Tara mistakenly assumes she's dead and gets all depressed. The two lovers don't get reunited until after he has an unfortunate encounter with a winged dinosaur, while she uses a flute to domesticate and make friends with a baby dinosaur and its huge-ass mother. which comes in handy when she needs to call in some backup. Oh, and the evil tribe also tries to sacrifice Tara to a plesiosaur. I'm not really sure what their theology is supposed to be at that point, but it looks cool. Ultimately, the whole thing gets decided by a giant earthquake tidal wave combo that, in addition to somehow creating the moon, I don't know, kills off all but 4 of the main cast, leaving them to, I think, combine their gene pool from the 2 tribes and begin a new lineage of humanity, which, I mean, I've heard less likely scenarios. Now, what was weird about both this movie and its predecessor is how damn serious they take themselves. The whole production is basically a sexed-up Flintstones, but with just enough attention paid to a then-modern understanding of how primitive humans might actually have lived to make the Oscar-nominated, incidentally, dinosaur effects all the more absurd by their presence. It's a fever dream of late 60s sexual liberation, 19th century understanding of prehistory, and, you know, baby dinosaur stuff. It was also pretty much the last good movie in the genre. Hammer eventually decided that the girls were a bigger draw than the monsters and made a couple more of these on lower budgets but without dinosaurs. That's sad, but not as sad as how things worked out for the featured cast. Victoria Vetri never got another role as big as this one and largely dropped out of sight until not long after 2010, when she was arrested for the attempted murder of her husband, for which she is now serving a 9-year prison sentence. Imogen Hassal, who played Ayak, died only 10 years later in 1980 from an apparent drug overdose. Incidentally, the movie is kind of hard to come by these days. It was only released on DVD once as part of a Best Buy exclusive 2-pack, which was quickly recalled once it was discovered that it contained the rare uncut version featuring actual full nude scenes. Today, that first run is a collector's item. Do I have it? Of course I have it. So yeah, if this was your first Schlocktober, I hope you enjoyed it. Next week, we go overseas and things get even weirder. Schlocktober rolls on, and seeing as how last week we showed you a caveman movie only to see Far Cry Primal announced mere days later, maybe you should keep watching this series in case it turns out to be consistently predictive. Anyway, did you hear the one about the Power Rangers? The casting call went out last week for the new Power Rangers movie, and with it came a surprising revelation. The new film, which is supposedly being based on the first season of the original series, is also supposedly keeping all of the original character names and personalities, but the casting is supposedly colorblind, i.e. the ethnicity of said characters isn't being required to match those of the original versions. Now, this feels very clearly like an attempt to mitigate the, by today's standards, more than a little uncomfortable coincidence that the Black and Yellow Rangers were played by Black and Asian persons. Yeah, what's interesting about this is that it kinda sucks either way. Color matching uniforms to race is just not gonna fly by unremarked upon in 2015, but on the other hand, if you do, for example, change Zack the Black Ranger into a white guy, yeah, you're fixing the borderline racist costuming thing, but doesn't that also mean effectively erasing a rare, well-known black superhero? I wouldn't want to be the guy who has to make that call, is all I'm saying. Now, I bring this up because, as I'm pretty sure everyone is now aware, Power Rangers was famously created by partially re-editing footage from Japanese Super Sentai TV shows, a format later borrowed by VR Troopers, Masked Rider, Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad, and others throughout the 90s. But believe it or not, Power Rangers was not the first time another country had looked at Japan's very popular but often very Japanese and difficult to translate live-action superheroes versus monster shows and said, hey, we should try that. No, in 1975, Hong Kong took one of the first cracks at it with what would become the first original superhero movie ever produced in China, Inframan.
That's Inframan, the Inframan!
Inframan! He's here!
Yeah, Unsurprisingly, this was a Shaw Brothers Studios production. While mostly known for their classic period martial arts output, the Shaws worked in nearly every genre that was popular, or at least tried to, and Inframan, or the Super Inframan in China, was an unapologetic attempt to cash in on the mega popularity of Japanese action series among Chinese audiences, in particular Ultraman, the Sentai shows, and Kamen Rider. As our story opens, a massive earthquake devastates the countryside, and is soon, as in within minutes, Shaw Brothers movies do not mess around on the pacing, revealed to be the work of an ancient race of prehistoric villains led by the evil Princess Dragon Mom, who also does not mess around on the pacing.
I have taken over this planet. Now I own the Earth, and you'll be my slaves for all eternity. The disasters you experienced are just small examples of our great power. Either surrender to me or I'll destroy all humans. I've spoken. It's all the warning you're going to get from me. You'll be destroyed.
See? Nice and direct. And if you've seen one Japanese superhero show in your life, you know how the rest of this goes. Dragon Mom has an impenetrable fortress, an army of cannon-fodder goons, in this case these goofy-ass skeleton soldiers, and a handful of more powerful monsters to dispatch one or two at a time for her various evil missions.
Come, my creatures. I summon all of you to attend. Silent, all of you.
And for some reason, all of this falls under the jurisdiction of the Science Center, aka the non-distinctly dedicated private army of a super scientist with the world's least interested reactions to terrible news.
Sir, there's another report. It says Mount Devil has erupted. 10,000 people dead.
Oh? It's weird.
His solution? Take the toughest dude on the team and RoboCop him into the cyborg superhero Inframan, which works even though it mostly seems to involve sticking random crap from Radio Shack to his skin until he turns into an off-brand Kamen Rider. And then we're off to the races.
You are now Inframan.
No, literally, that's it. Once Inframan is created, the film settles into the expected new monster fight, new monster fight, new monster fight rhythm and hardly ever lets up. Yes, there's some plot happening about one of the other Science Center guys getting brainwashed and eventually the leader and his daughter get abducted for the finale, but it's all nakedly perfunctory. We're here to see tokusatsu-style TV action executed with the Shaw Brothers' signature over-the-top acrobatic kung fu choreography, and that's what you get. And it looks pretty spectacular. Including a bit that answers the common Ultraman quandary, why not just grow to giant size when the monster is still small? But mostly, yeah, it's a nearly plotless crazy monster bash fest all the way up through the final confrontation at Dragon Mom's Castle Keep. As the movie leaps back and forth from looking like a Sentai or Henshin show to a monster movie to some kind of alternate universe Muppets production. Inframan was a big hit in Hong Kong and even earned itself a US release, rare for a Chinese film that wasn't explicitly a kung fu movie. Even a young Roger Ebert gave it a positive review.
Watch and see how simple it is. You'll understand.
And yeah, that's Inframan, a gonzo must-see providing you're into that sort of thing, which I of course am. Now next week, a new milestone as I present the first fully animated film in Schlocktober history. Whatever could it be? Do you love Ninja Gaiden? I love Ninja Gaiden. What a great franchise. What a classic series of 3 iconic NES games that set a high bar for challenging gameplay and cinematic storytelling in the console golden age, followed by some in-name only non-canonical ports to the Genesis, a Game Boy reskin of a completely different game, a few mostly forgotten TurboGrafx and Atari versions, a new 21st Century relaunch that people seem to like but I could never get all that into, and hey, that original arcade game that was kinda really repetitive and mostly remembered for that super fucked up game over screen. But yeah, turns out there was also a Ninja Gaiden anime, produced in 1991 at the height of the original series' popularity, and for some reason it never even saw a cursory US release. Now that always baffles me. Gamers are constantly hard up for adaptations of this or that franchise, but then the stuff doesn't bother to leave Japan. Hell, I still remember in like 9th grade when my friends and I discovered that first Street Fighter movie. That was a big damn deal at the time. Anyway, Ninja Gaiden. Yeah, okay, so the movie, which is kind of being generous with the definition of movie, it's an OAV that barely runs over 50 minutes, but whatever, seems to take place after the events of Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos, but kind of fudges with the characters and incorporates some story elements similar to the plot of Ninja Gaiden 3, The Ancient Ship of Doom, which supposedly took place between Part 1 and Part 2, and oh god damn it, what does it say that the series often credited with introducing long-form narrative story structure to the 8-bit era can't keep its own goddamn continuity straight? In any case, we're in 1980s anime New York where Ryu Hayabusa is doing his ninja thing while operating a store as his daytime cover. The store in question is Ryu's Japanese Shop. No, for real, that's not like an artifact of an English translation or something, that's in the original movie, so I guess he sells Japanese? I don't know, the interiors honestly make it look like one of those shitty mall import outlets that sell knockoff Asianish weapons and pottery as decorations, and I guess that's kind of a funny idea, i.e. the dude behind the counter hawking tacky Buddha piggy banks and phony shurikens to Joe Dirt and Dale Gribble is actually a real-life badass ninja undercover, but we only ever really see Irene working there. Oh yeah, remember how Irene Liu was a tough-ass CIA agent in the games? Well, here she's been demoted to generic love-struck anime waifu. She's all mopey because Ryu can't stop doing ninja stuff and commit to a real relationship, and I'm gonna assume that you've seen at least one anime before, so you already know where that's going.
こんなことになるなんて考えたこともなかった。ずっと一緒にいられると思っていた。
Whatever. The storyline here is that a famous scientist claims to have discovered a cure for cancer, but he isn't talking about it to anyone. This is being investigated by Irene's BFF Sarah, a reporter who has a super secret weapon for sussing out stories like this inasmuch as she's sleeping with Robert Sturgeon, aka the Special Forces guy from Ninja Gaiden 2, who has now traded that job in to become a private detective alongside his buddy, some guy named Jeff. As it turns out, the mystery doctor is hiding a secret, human bioengineering experiments, and also Ryu is investigating this too because said experiments are the source of the mutant henchmen who keep bugging him on the street and messing up his Japanese shop. Oh, and they also kidnap Irene because, you know, what else is she here for? So Ryu goes off to storm the bad guy's compound with Robert and whoever Jeff is following close behind after a friendly discussion of how many guns they should bring and whether or not Sarah gets to join the fighting too. Aw, man, that's not cool, Ninja Gaiden, not cool. What is cool is the bad guy base turns out to be guarded by werewolves and fishmen and all kinds of human-animal hybrid monsters. Alright, weirdly, Ryu disappears from the action to go skulking around in the shadows for most of this, so the big blowout combat stretch of this ninja movie is mostly Robert and Jeff exercising their Second Amendment rights all over the monsters. Which leads to this priceless exchange that I present to you in nearly complete form.
俺は傭兵だったんだよ。除隊して国へ帰ってからは普通に生きようと思って臆病者のマスクをかぶってきた。臆病者になれたと思った。ところがどうだい。嬉しいんだぜ。戦場に戻れたのが震えるほど嬉しいんだ。誰だって似たようなもんさ。戦うのが好き、酒が好き、女が好き。
中には男の方が好きなやつだっている。それでもみんな厄介なところをちょっとずつ曲げて世間となんとか折り合いをつけてるんだ。お前だけじゃないさ。
はい、どうやっつけていっぱいやるぜ。
賛成。
Okay then. Ultimately, it turns out the evil doctor was actually being blackmailed via a kidnapped daughter into using leftover energy from the demon god Ryu defeated back in the games to make a monster-creating machine by a different bad guy who shows up for the final fight with Ryu. For a minute, it seems like he's going to actually be Jokoi in disguise, which would be cool, but instead he just turns into a big ogre dude who does turn out to be pretty formidable. Oh, now you done it, dude. You don't ever put your hands on an anime dude's girlfriend. Come on.
That's my...
The Ninja Gaiden anime is not very good. It doesn't really have much to do with the games in terms of visuals, music, or consistent characterizations, and as a low-tech OAV, it mostly looks and feels like a below-average episode of Ronin Warriors. But, if you must track down every scrap of retro gaming ephemera out there, you can certainly do a lot worse than this one. Next week? Oh, just you wait. And so we come to the final installment of the first ever Schlocktober on ScrewAttack, which I'd say has overall been pretty damn successful. And when I first saw October coming up again this year, I wasn't 100% convinced I'd bring the series back, even though everyone kept asking me to. Maybe a new-ish show deserved a fresh start, untethered to old traditions, right? Plus, more substantively, I was starting to wonder if my backlog of cinematic oddity was starting to run dry in terms of what could actually turn into a month of episodes. But then I remembered that stuff like the Manitou exists, and I know I owe it to you all to keep on going. Okay, so this one is going to need a small disclaimer. The Manitou is one of those 70s movies that was looking to piggyback on a then-recent wave of mainstream pop culture interest in Native American, spiritual, and mythological concepts, and like a lot of other variations on that theme, it's well-meaning but engages in a lot of tacky, uncomfortable, unwittingly condescending misuse of culture and iconography, most egregiously the common practice of acting as though Native American spirituality is both a singular entity and indistinguishable from trendy, upscale 20th century New Age gobbledygook as opposed to many, many wholly unique permutations of ancient religious practices. Case in point, a Manitou is an Algonquin word usually used to describe a life force permeating the natural world, but the Manitou, which is based on a series of novels by Graham Masterson, uses it interchangeably to describe human soul, the souls of animals, and even the animistic spirits of objects both natural and man-made. So basically, this, I swear to you, though you may not believe me in a moment, totally serious-minded movie has exactly the same grasp of its own subject matter as Colors of the Wind from Pocahontas. Point being, I'm not an expert in Native American culture either, so if anything reductive or appropriative gets said here, don't blame me, blame this ridiculous-ass movie I'm describing, okay? Okay. I can take this time at the start, by the way, because while the Manitou has an infamous reputation for weirdness, once it gets to the point, it takes forever to get to the point, so I can kind of breeze through a lot of the story. Anyway, the plot of this thing is that a well-heeled San Francisco woman named Karen has a strange tumor growing on the back of her neck. Her case is being handled by a world-renowned tumor specialist because, unrevealed to her for some reason, the damn thing is growing less like a tumor than it is like a fetus, which is never good news. Before going under the knife, she reconnects with her ex-boyfriend Harry, a fraud fortune teller played by Tony Curtis, really, as simultaneously the most and least convincing fake psychic ever. But during Karen's surgery, a strange invisible force disrupts the operation. And then one of Glenn Quagmire as Dr. Strange's clients has a psychic freakout.
Look at that, and for you personally, I see some... Please, the name is Erskine. You must send an ambulance.
Surprisingly, Harry is that rare person in a horror movie who has actually seen a horror movie before in his life, so he immediately puts two and two together and figures out that Karen is afflicted by some kind of evil spirit. After consulting with some actual psychic friends, a seance, and Burgess Meredith, because of course he's in this, it's determined that Karen's condition is similar to accounts of possession from Native American folklore. So Harry seeks out the help of a medicine man named John Singing Rock.
What does a white man want with Indian magic?
Don't you immediately like this dude?
My fee will be $100,000 to the Indian Educational Foundation.
And you?
Well, I need some tobacco. I'm running a little low.
That's distinguished character actor Michael Ansara, by the way, who frequently portrayed Native Americans even though he himself was of Lebanese Arab descent. If his voice sounds familiar to you, it's because he also performed the voice of Mr. Freeze in a bunch of Batman stuff. In any case, it's through John Singing Rock that the Manitou reveals its true intention. It's The Exorcist, but with native spirituality instead of Catholicism, and it really does try to make that as interesting as it sounds. Before it goes completely bugnuts crazy.
Spirit of rock, take my hand.
Yep. That scene is pretty much why anyone remembers this movie, and that is our big evil monster for the proceedings, a malformed Native American little person. Meet Misquamacus, a 400-year-old evil medicine man reborn to wreak havoc on the modern world with his vaguely defined power set of throwing fireballs, conjuring ghost dinosaurs, causing earthquakes, and freezing hospital wings. All while overpowering the various good Manitous John Singing Rock summons to counter him.
Manitou. Bear Manitou. Hold Misquamacus. River Manitou. Help your brother. Hold Misquamacus. Hold him.
But Harry discovers Misquamacus' kryptonite. He has trouble manipulating technology, because he's from the pre-electronic age. Now that could set up an interesting idea, magic versus science, modernity versus the ancient world, but what it means in this movie is just pick up a computer and fucking throw it at him. Okay, so they decide to turn on all the high-tech equipment in the hospital so that Singing Rock can call on their newfangled technology Manitou to fight Misquamacus, since I guess if the spirits of Bear, Mountain, and Wind aren't doing the trick, the spirits of Apple II, Fax Machine, and Mr. Coffee will. Except it doesn't.
Send Misquamacus back! Team Manitou! I can't, Harry. I can't do it. They won't come. The machine's Manitous won't come. It's white man's medicine.
Yep, that's what we're going with here. Singing Rock can't summon the Manitous of modern objects because technology is white people magic. Good lord. So instead, Karen becomes imbued with their power for the final battle with Misquamacus and his demonic backup, the Great Old One. And I swear to you, this is how the movie ends. Topless lasers versus meteorite battle, because why the hell not? Well, that does it for Schlocktober, everybody. I hope you all had as good a time as I did. Have a happy Halloween, and I'll see you here next week as we return to our regularly scheduled programming with an all-new Game Overthinker.